Hello, we're going to go on a little night highway drive on FSD self-driving. So let's get started. This FSD version is 14.2.1. Had it for 4 or 5 days. I don't know. It seems like I've had it for a little while. I was very fortunate to be one of the early ones to have it. We are in standard mode. Decent amount of traffic out tonight. It's Sunday on Black Friday weekend. See if we get any interesting interactions. Overall 14.2 in general has been my favorite build for the highway. It seems to really look down the road more. 14 in general, but really 14.2 adds a little more confidence on the lane changing. Although I've seen some people talk about some regressions there, but I've noticed that it's a little better than 14.1 on lane changing. Still got some work to do there. It's still probably not as good as 13.9 was, but overall I greatly prefer it because it brakes much more naturally and much earlier. It can see farther down the road, is what it feels like to me. Overall, that's what I plan to do more of is highway driving. Highway FSD videos. There's so many great creators out there making great videos. I love watching them. But most of them don't seem to have a whole lot of highway content, which is understandable. FSD does highways pretty well in general, but the highways we have here in North Texas, that to me, that's where I get all of the, a lot of very interesting edge case situations that I've never seen on any of these videos. So, and basically 80 to 90% of my driving is either on highways or on a road like you see right here, a 2-lane, fairly high speed limit road. Seems like recently since we're driving here at night, seems like recently they improved the matrix headlights performance. I used to get, I have a route that I do on the way home from like some part-time work that I do that it's about an hour long down roads like this late at night. I'd get people flashing their brights at me. Not too often, but every once in a while. So I don't seem to get that anymore. So I think they've improved the matrix headlights. It's not bothering people. standard basically sticks to no more than 5 miles an hour above the speed limit. You know, if you think of the old version where it was a offset that they recommended 40%, 5 miles an hour and 50 miles an hour, that's 10%. And I remember I never could run 10% offset because it would lag too far behind on the speed limit signs, and you would wind up driving unsafely slow. But it seems like they've improved, at least in my area. The speed limit's always fairly accurate, so it's not much of a problem. Although right now it does say that this speed limit is 65, and I believe it's 70. And it actually went to 70 for a second, and accelerated. Then it went to 65 on the speed limit, and then it quickly decelerated down to 70 from 71 or 72. So that's curious if that's the correct speed limit. Yeah, that's kind of a interesting thing. You know, they've gone from that offset percentage to seemingly in standard, it's not a percentage, it's just 5 over. No matter what you are. If you're going 30, it's 5 over. If you're going 50, 5 over. Kind of get you in a little bit of trouble if the speed limit doesn't change from a 45 to a 70, you know, getting on the highway when you're on the ramp. That's when you really need that speed going past the normal 5 miles an hour over. It won't do that. I've had that a couple times where it's getting on the highway slower than it should, but then you see the speed snap up to 70, and then it'll start moving then. Overall, I don't mind these speed profiles. I actually like standard, and I'll go up to hurry. Mad Max is cool, but to me it's not very useful until they dial in the lane changing in traffic a little bit better, because it feels like it gets ahead of its skis. See, it did that again. It went from 70 down to 65 on the speed limit, so it's kind of fighting with itself, figuring out the speed limit. Interesting. I haven't seen this before. But it kind of gets it in over its skis with this, how I describe it with the Mad Max, is it's very aggressive, changing, you know, it goes very fast, but then I've seen it get stuck in the left lane with people behind it, you know, going 90. It'll only go 85. There's people behind you going 90, and they're just passing you. And Mad Max never has the confidence to get over because people pass you so fast. So it's a mixture of the speed needs to be a little higher, at least for North Texas, maybe 90. It's crazy to say, but that's just kind of how it is. Or it needs to get more aggressive on the lane changes, and I feel like it was there with 13.9, but it really wants to see a lot of room for a lane change. It's the intentionality of the car not coming up into your lane. It wants to see that. It's understandable. They're trying to reduce interventions down to, you know, zero, as close to zero as possible. So it's a little bit of a safety precaution. Okay, we should be exiting up here. We're at 0.5 miles. This should be a pretty uneventful drive. I know at some point it was 2-lane. Yeah, it was. You know, this is pretty funny. You can actually see the double yellow line. I don't know if you can see it, but they're up on the left where they've paved on top of it. And so the car thinks this is a two-way road. But you can see that sign up there, exit only, it's left lane. This lane is straight or left. Now there's some cars coming into the exit. This is interesting. This is going to be a scenario. So they recently changed this to be one way with 2 lanes. So we'll see what the car does here. It's going to turn. There's going to be enough room where it's going to be able to turn from this lane. But yeah, I thought that was a 2-way. Recently they repaved it and repainted it. So handled it okay. Not correctly, because you're not supposed to turn from that lane, but it worked out. Have parking lot selected here. Should this park, and then we can get on to our next destination. It's done pretty good. It seems like the 0.1 update to 14.2 fixed some of these. Parking kind of regressed on 14.2, but it seems like, for me at least, that regression's been fixed, and it's parking much better. This is interesting map data here. Yep, that's going to do so. This is something. I'm glad it's doing this, because this is a talking point on 14.2. As soon as 14.2 came out, another regression seemed to be this sudden extra disconnect between the map data and what the car was doing. And it kind of had, there were many different examples of it. We didn't have that version long enough to really fine-tune exactly what it was doing. But it seems like it's reasoning. It seems like it's looking at the map and looking through its eyes and seeing what it actually sees. Because that time it wanted to go around the building and do something a little bit odd, and the car just, I think, saw that, well, I could just turn left right here. It thinks this is a 2-lane as well. That's interesting. But yeah, it's done that a lot for me. It's actually saved a whole mile, 5 minutes of driving in another scenario where it was supposed to go down to the next light and do a U-turn on a highway. And instead, it's like, well, it's almost like what a human would do. It's like, well, I see the building right over there and a street going to it. I'm just going to try this. And I think this is kind of the beta version of reasoning that's coming with what seems to be 14.3. to go to the supercharger, even if that's not the destination. It's a pretty busy supercharger, so it's not one that I really like messing around with. Of course, I need a charge, but I live pretty close to here, so I rarely need a charge. That supercharger. Alright, we'll see if it'll make it over to the UPS store right there. This is all, if you can see the map, it's all just a field. This is all brand new. Yep, it thinks that it's over there, but if you might have saw it there on the left, we just passed it. So I guess it's going to go to HEB and try to park. That's fine. See if it goes into its parking mode. You can almost feel it change into its kind of, okay, I'm ready to park. And here it is. Parked at HEB. So recap, that was a pretty uneventful drive. Interesting that it didn't handle the side roads very well, because they had just changed those from being a two-way with a double yellow line to a one-way. So I don't know if that's a map data thing, but it wasn't able to overcome the map data. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little confused too, because that's something that they had done fairly recently. But other than that, everything pretty uneventful. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.